I'm currently standing in Hawaii, Honolulu, and this is the headquarters for the US Pacific Command. Now, this is the biggest naval fleet of the US Navy, and it's going to play a very significant role given China's increasing aggression in the South China Sea, and also it's going to be significant for India, which is looking to be a potential counterweight to China during this time.
Following PM Narendra Modi's visit to the US last month, the two countries agreed to strengthen their strategic partnership with a slew of defense deals, and also in the field of maritime security. Not too long after, the US Navy signed a 5-year master ship repair agreement with Indian company Larsen & Toubro Limited, and 2 similar agreements are pending with shipyards in Goa and Chennai. There is talk of whether these agreements will help make India a naval logistics hub in the Indo-Pacific to potentially counter China. While US Navy ships have docked in Indian ports for repairs in the past, such agreements seek to formalize the US and India's larger strategy in creating a free and open Indo-Pacific. Asked about the relevance of these logistics agreements, a top officer from the US Pacific Fleet, which is a theater command under the US Navy, had this to say.
I think we recognise regularly the regional leadership that India has, and you see it every day in such organisations like the Quad, where we look at sort of nations that are common, have a common vision for our region, and we sort of try and harness that collective sort of power that comes from those common nations, such as the Quad, in order to not only benefit ourselves but benefit the region moving forward. The announcement that we saw of the Prime Minister Modi recently in Washington was about sort of ensuring that some elements of military capability were provided to India, and we think that's only beneficial moving forward.
Some experts remain skeptical about India's role as a potential naval logistics hub in the Indo-Pacific, especially since Japan and Singapore have traditionally been key maritime hubs for the US in the region.
India has a lot of initiatives on infrastructure building, but a lot of them have been slow. They're not as fast as Chinese. Yes, in the works, not yet. So that's the big highlight. So they are working on many infrastructure projects, and they're taking time. So if they want to compete with China, they have to speed up the process. But of course, they don't have centralized power like China. So in India, it's much more slower process, and that is going to be a challenge.
When it comes to the US's Indo-Pacific strategy, the US Navy is no doubt the prime arm of execution. But the US Army, specifically the US Army Pacific or the USARPAC, which functions as a service command under the US Army, is keen to assist in amphibious operations in the region.
The United States Army has to operate across all domains, as I stated. We have aircraft, we have naval vessels, we have Army maritime vessels. We have the ability and the need to operate in the air and the land littoral. And the creation of our multi-domain task forces has really caused the advent of this, because we have longer range fires that can reach out, that we have to coordinate airspace for, that can ultimately influence the maritime fight. And many of our allies and partners are doing the same thing. India has got surface to maritime capability. Many other nations do, that we need to work and train with and refine how we fight. Our military sales, India has worked quite a bit with Russia over time for arms. We understand the strains that Russia is under, but we also understand India has to make decisions on capabilities. So we're very interested in helping to support any of those collaborative armament issues that the Army faces because of its size and mass.
Though the China factor is hard to ignore when talking about maritime security in the Indo-Pacific, some experts view the issue as a low-hanging fruit in bilateral relationships between common partners, and that it doesn't necessarily need to be a sensitive issue.
Maritime security is perhaps an easier, lower-hanging fruit type of area where countries can cooperate more easily, where it's less sensitive, and it isn't obviously designed as an alliance against China, but rather it's clearly two countries that are able to offer global goods, cooperating to be able to do that more effectively through the Quad and other vehicles.
So you don't see maritime security as a sensitive issue?
It need not be a sensitive issue. Of course, the Chinese government is likely to frame any cooperation between the United States and India that might have strategic implications as only having strategic implications. But we need not be dissuaded from that kind of pressure from the Chinese from doing something that does constitute a global good.
This is Pia Krishnankutty reporting for ThePrint from Honolulu.